Hi, I'm Neil Thompson, Amazon Books editor here at BookExpo America 2014 with Michael Koryta. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, loved your new book, Those Who Wish Me Dead. What's it with you and death?
It's a cheerful title, isn't it? I always want
to
lure people in for a feel-good story. The book centers around a child who's on the run. He's a witness to a crime, and he's on the run from two assassins, and they quite literally want him dead. And the idea of the title really came from just this idea of being 14 years old and struggling with the reality of accepting that through no fault of your own, someone could actually have a desire and a need to quite literally remove you, your existence. So that's where the title came from, and all of it's good cheer.
There's a lot going on. It's about this little boy. He ends up in this wilderness group to try and keep his distance from these really bad guys. But it's about a lot of things. It seems to me about protecting this kid as a parent and as a guardian, as the guy who runs the wilderness camp is. It's a little bit about the wilderness itself. There are fires.
Absolutely.
And it's about that. Can we talk a little bit about just the origins of it? Was there some sort of crux point where you said, oh, this is where this is going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. The origins are really in the landscape itself. I went out on a backpacking trip in the Beartooth Mountains in Montana and Wyoming, and there was a point on that trip where we sort of stopped for a lunch break, and we're at about 10,500 feet, and you can just see it's this incredible vista. You can see for miles in any direction. And I was standing on the edge of this cliff looking out, and I realized I cannot see another soul, quite literally. And I think we were 40 miles away from cell phone reception at that point. And with my warped, twisted mind, I immediately began to think I could put a character in a lot of trouble up here. And so really it was just through hiking trips up there and thinking about the landscape itself, there is this combination of intense beauty. The mountains themselves are just so beautiful, but then there's always this undercurrent of menace. Something that would seem simple, a sprained ankle. Ordinarily we'd get shuffled off and that would be dealt with no problem. Out there, that could be a real problem. And then the forest fire landscape, some of the areas that I've hiked through many times, you can see where fire has just ravaged these slopes, and they can take hours to get to the top of. The terrain's so intense, and I was thinking about just the threat that the land embodied. That sort of was the origin point. I started thinking about writing a book up there, I would say 3 years before I actually put pen to paper on it.
Mm. So let's get back to your warped and twisted mind.
Yes, by all means.
You seem like such a clean-cut guy, but actually beneath it.
It's deceptive, exactly.
Your bad guys in this book are kind of brilliant bad guys. They're very smart, they're very creepy, they're very violent. Where'd those dudes come from?
I actually just envisioned one at the beginning, and I felt as if once he started to talk to my other characters, I thought, okay, this is a really fun voice. I liked the sort of detachment, and he has a dark sense of humor that plays through even as he knows that he is going to bring great harm to people. But I felt as if he would play better off someone else who shared his disposition. So that's where the idea of the Blackwell brothers came into play. I wanted to give him someone who he could engage in conversation with. And once they began to talk to each other and sort of talk around and over a potential victim as if the victim wasn't there at all, that's when those characters really began to pop for me. And I thought, okay, now I'm having a lot of fun with these guys. And it just, to me at least, at that point that they were talking to each other, it took on a new layer of menace, and I really, really began to have fun with them.
Yeah, they scared the crap out of me.
And that's what I like to hear. If they made you feel anything close to reassurance, I'd be very concerned.
No, that didn't happen. No. So I wanted to back up from this book a little bit and just talk about your influences. Who's inspired you over the years? I think this is your 10th book?
Yes. Yeah.
And you're on quite a nice little roll. You've had some mentors and supporters over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found so many writers to be just very generous. Michael Connolly is someone who, I've been reading his books for years, and he's just been fantastic to me. Dennis Lehane, also a guy who I was really amazed at Dennis to be at such a high level, and he was still teaching classes when I came into the business. I had the opportunity to actually study with him, which was great. Stuart Onan has been fantastic. Dean Koontz. I have met so many writers who are willing to give of their time if you have questions about their process or just want to talk books. It's been a very generous business. That's what I found. There's a sense of brotherhood there, in which you're competing for shelf space and competing for bestseller list position and all of these things. But by and large, I think everyone gets that they're in it because of a love of story, and the rising tide lifts all boats. The more readers we each are able to hook, the more books they're going to read, in theory. So I think that idea is pretty pervasive.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And then finally, what's next?
The next one is tentatively titled Last Words, another cheerful title.
Nice.
And
such a happy guy.
It's exactly. I get the darkness out on the page. It's a detective novel and also involved in the world of cave rescue. So I want to start off. I always like to give a nice, lighthearted scene to just sort of bring that warm sunshine into the book. Exactly. So I've got a corpse in a cave right off the bat. And so I just moved from the mountains to, we took it subterranean in this one.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.